All right, good evening. I'd now like to welcome everyone to the regular evening meeting of Township Council. And welcome to Arboretum Mountain Secondary School Choir. So just give us a few minutes, we'll get through our preliminary and then we'll formally introduce you. So the first item is adoption and receipt of the agenda items. Could I have a motion, please? Councillor Ferguson moves, Councillor Kuhn seconds. All those in favor? Oh, on the agenda?
Yeah, are we going to adjust the agenda?
That'll be at the end. I've asked. Okay, fair enough. So I'm going to call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? Councillor Long opposed. Carries. Next item is the adoption of the minutes. The regular evening council meeting December 2, public hearing meeting December 2. Could I have a motion, please? Councillor Arneson and a seconder. Councillor Ferguson, discussion or errors and omissions. Councillor Richter.
Yeah, I had a question. I know under our procedure bylaw, we said we can now give third reading at a public hearing, but shouldn't the cameras be turned on when this is done because we are giving third reading?
I'll ask Mr. Backen regarding that.
Your Worship, it would mean we'll have to think about that in terms of, I understand the comment in terms of ensuring that we have it, but it would be putting it on partway through and then turning it back off again. So if you can let us look into that.
Unless we did all the votes at the end of the meeting and then you just turned it on and left it on.
Yeah, maybe you can go back and
Reflect if we could.
Reflect on it and come back with something. Thanks. Thank you. Councillor Long?
On the same topic, Your Worship, I don't know if we've ever had a proper explanation as to why the public hearings aren't TV, but I don't need to get into it now, but I think we should be reminded as to why. But I'm confused because when I look at the TV, I see other councils with public hearings, I think. Anyway, maybe that can be answered too.
Come back with that one.
Yeah.
Thanks. Okay, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Okay, so we go to presentations. I'm pleased to introduce Arboretum Mountain Secondary School Choir. We're here to provide us with a few songs to start the Christmas season. So welcome here. Now I see that you're all assembled up there. Is that where you want to sing from, or did you want to come up front? And you want to come down? Okay, so if you want to come around, and members of council will take our seats over there. So we.
Oh, what? Oh, it won't go on TV. So I need to talk to this? Okay. Mr. Mayor and council people and ladies and gentlemen and families who may have stepped in, this is just a real treat for the Arboretum Mountain Chamber Choir to come and sing for you. We were just really thrilled with the invitation. So we're going to do two pieces. Both are Canadian, and one's not actually Christmassy, but it really feels Christmassy. So the first one is the Huron Carol, which is a beautiful Canadian carol. And the second is Gordon Lightfoot, Song for a Winter's Night, which is a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful piece, which will hopefully give you some peace in this holiday. So here we are, the beautiful chamber choir.
School too. Yes, sir. Best place to practice your choir. Best group. It's very nice. Yeah, I think so. Yeah. Well, very good. Well, thank you very much for coming, and I wish you all a very Merry Christmas. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so now we move on to delegations. We have the Langley Sustainable Agriculture Foundation here in force, I see, full force. So thank you very much for coming, and please come forward. And as you know, we have 5 minutes to present. And put your mic on. There we go.
Oh, no. This is
And he's
the
relating.
peaceful season.
He's relating to the 1 hour RCMP presentation we had in the afternoon meeting. I have to put some context around there.
I'll bring my spade instead. Thank you very much, Your Worship and Council, for putting some time on your agenda to get it here for an update of the Langley Learning Farm.
Could we just have, I know, just your name for the
Oh,
record,
sorry,
please?
Carol Paulson.
Thank you, Carol.
So now, so the idea for the Langley Learning Farm resides in the ag viability strategy, and there's a section in the strategy that encourages organizations to develop programs that support efforts of the industry to attract new entrants to agriculture. The Learning Farm could become a site for a mentorship program where experienced farmers might assist others to start farms in the township. The Learning Farm team has been working for 3 years. Tonight, there's several representatives from numerous organizations here, so I'll point people out to you. From the Sustainable Agriculture Foundation, there's Dave Melnichuk, our president, and Gary Jones is on the foundation, and Nancy Clark is sitting behind there. She's on the foundation as well. The Langley Environmental Partners, Amanda Smith is here tonight. And from the School of Horticulture at KPU, Gary Jones is here, and Gary is also a director of the Sustainable Agriculture Foundation. You can see there's numerous diverse organizations that have been very interested in a learning farm concept in the township. So I am pleased to confirm tonight, we're very excited to confirm that the Langley Sustainable Agriculture Foundation has today signed a license agreement with the township for use of different aspects of different pieces of the Doubleday Arboretum. This graphic that's up there is the 2009 concept plan for the Arboretum. And so I've circled the areas that the Learning Farm will undertake activities over the next few years. So in those 3 red circled areas, these are the different sites within those 3 areas that the Learning Farm team has identified where we'd like to undertake specific activities. And what I've done for the next 2 slides is I've taken this particular graphic and sliced it right down the middle so that we can look at the eastern half of the section and the western half as well. So on the eastern half, the Site 1 part is where we would like to put an incubator farm, an urban container, a small greenhouse. This would be the area that would be devoted to supporting people who wish to farm, and this would give them an opportunity to actually practice the whole farming process from growing, harvesting, marketing, and learn the whole process. So it's basically an incubator farm type concept. Site 2 runs right along the Fraser Creek, and this past summer it was planted with trees as part of the integrated storm water management plan. And it can be an area where we can publicly demonstrate how we can improve the streams to improve riparian health. This dovetails very nicely with the Ecological Services Initiative that the Sustainable Agriculture Foundation has undertaken for the last 4 years. So, and then the eastern half, the Site 3 area, you see it's really tiny area right beside the current garden boxes. We would plan to build boxes similar to the current community garden boxes, but this area would have 2 purposes. First of all, it would be a demonstration area so that parents, teachers, students can come and look at how to do a school garden. And the second use is we've been in dialogue with the Langley Senior Secondary to establish an environmental sciences course for grade 11 and 12 students so that they can come here and do environmental sciences, grow food, harvest food in an environmentally sustainable way. Area 4 is, we would designate it for indigenous and heritage plants. The south boundary of this area is currently planted with memorial trees, so it's a perfect area to put heritage and indigenous plants. Site 5 is currently a composting facility, and we'd like to, because there will be green waste from both the current community gardens plus all the future growing, we would like to be able to compost property and for people and students to learn how to compost properly. Site 6 is atop the berm right along the Fraser Highway. We're calling it a food forest. We'd like to plant trees, and fruit bushes up there, the raspberries, blueberries. And we understand that the township is planning to extend the walking pathway up there, so it's a perfect location to have a demonstration fruits and berries. And Site 6 is concept only. It's possible that the students will want to sell their crops produced on site. So maybe we could have a market kiosk at some point. The part of the concept plan for the learning farm involves also the seed library that is currently at the School of Horticulture at KPU, and we would encourage the students and the public to utilize that resource. And of course, ultimately, we would like signage throughout the Langley Learning Farm explaining Indigenous plants, horticultural, current plants, future crop production. Who benefits from all of this learning farm? We figure the general public will be able to learn about food, growing, planting, harvesting, fertilizing, all those things, all the aspects of crop production. Educators, teachers, and parents, this could be a one-stop shop for information regarding school gardens. K-12 students, the school district provided us with about a 3-page list of the learning opportunities that have been identified in the K-12 curriculum where a site like this can be utilized by students, not only for science and environment, but for art, for literacy skills, for communication skills, so right across the spectrum, K-12. New entrants to farming can experience the full growing marketing cycle. And finally, the Langley food security organizations could benefit from produce that's grown on the site.
Can we just, how close are you to the?
Pardon?
How close are you to the end?
One slide.
Yep,
The immediate next steps is to secure partners and funding for each phase, and to secure a hire a manager, and to develop the environmental sciences 11 and 12 for implementation in September. And I just want to express our deep appreciation for the Township of Langley for supporting and encouraging this idea over the last 3 years.
Great. Well, thank you very much. That looks like an amazing project.
Thank you.
Yeah. Councillor Davis has a question. Councillor Davis?
Yes.
Oh, thank you
He's wondering
very
if
much.
you're going to have any cows there.
What's that? My father used to go to all the school graduations, and he'd always come home and say, "There wasn't one graduate that wanted to get into agriculture," and then he'd go and seek out the principal and read the riot act that he didn't. And this can help that. You've already got LSS there. I'd like to thank you guys for doing all your hard work. The mandate in the L staff is to educate and teach. So that's bang on. You've got an excellent site right here. It's got, it's all you got to do is look on the other side of the street and go to the IGA up at Murrayville, and they have a picture of what the dairy, of what the Barry's farm was. Yeah. So you're in a perfect location. Yeah. The seed library, we as food producers, we kind of take that for granted. Mm-hmm. We don't realize that the seeds are. We're in a climate where it's hard to make seeds, and in a drier climate, it's easier to make seeds. But this is unbelievable. You can teach seeds, and you talked about Site 4, streams, and how LEPS will get down into a stream and try to. And I think the key is there's another thing that you can teach is try to retain water throughout the summer. If you can fill it full of weeds, Well, you know what I'm saying. And if you can retain the water, because in the last 10 years or so, we're getting dry. And I know it's a challenge sometimes to fight with DFO, because what we could do to make the water retain further. But anyhow, I think you guys did a great job, and I'm really pleased, and Dad would be happy that we're going to teach students right here in Langley. There is agriculture programs, but this is something that's in a perfect area and for elementary. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Long?
Thanks, and thanks very much for your presentation. I'm just so excited because I know when you first came to council 2 or 3 years ago, and we discussed the concept, it was exciting at that time, but now it's really exciting that it's actually becoming a reality. How soon do you think you might? Maybe I missed it in the presentation. It's going to be imminent in 2020, we hope?
We for sure want to work with the Langley Secondary School to develop the garden boxes for an environmental sciences program class that is to be established and started in September. And they need to have a commitment from us in February that will be ready for September. So we are very seriously looking at developing at least that particular part of it right away.
Now, you mentioned in number 5 or 6 about possibly having a market there to sell some of the produce or things that are produced, which is an awesome idea. You might want to talk to the farmers market folks too and find out if there's some kind of synergy that could happen there.
Yes,
because that would be a terrific location for a farmers market, and so that's something that could be explored. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Councillor Ferguson. Councillor Ferguson.
Thank you very much, Carol, and your group for coming. I see the logo is looking pretty good after a number of years when you first came to council. And you said you guys wanted to, I see Dave laughing there, wanted to put together this foundation, and people are wondering, that's impossible, but you've turned it around. You've focused on education, farming, and development thereof of the agricultural industry, and well done, and I think you're working well towards your achievements. I remember the ground level, and I think I like the 5 and 6, as Councillor Long has said in your proposal, because any highway exposure is always important, and just keep doing what you're doing, and I wish you guys all well. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Well, thank you very much. There's no further questions, and sounds pretty exciting. Thanks. Looking forward to it. That park just keeps growing and growing. Yes, no pun intended. You know what the Barrys say? They spent a lot of effort taking all those trees down, and now we're planting all those trees back again. So, there you go. All right, so we're going to move on to bylaws for first and second reading, and of which there are many today. Let's start with E1, zoning bylaw update, dwelling unit definition, bylaw 5542. Could I have a motion, please? Councillor Davis moves. Second, Councillor Whitmarsh. Discussion, Councillor Davis.
Thank you. This is actually going to go to public, but this is about regulating the size of the suite. And I guess my question is, it says here, local governments are in the best position to determine and implement land use and floor area limitations based on comprehensive community planning. This proposal reduces potential for any confusion that may have resulted otherwise from multiple layers of overlapping jurisdictions. Will we to avoid that, will we have will we copy a model of everybody, of all the townships, or will we, because I know in here it's not all the same.
Mr. Safi?
Thank you, Worship. The requirements in terms of the regulations with respect to the size of a secondary suite within a single-family dwelling used to be within the building code, the British Columbia Building Code. However, recently the province has removed that based on the fact that they would like municipalities to have the ability to regulate what they deem to be appropriate size if they wish to have something more or less. What we are suggesting, what staff is recommending for us to do is to adopt what has historically been contained in the building code, that being 90 square meters or 900 square feet, as something to proceed with until such time as, I guess, additional information is available for staff to recommend something else, potentially in the context of the housing needs assessment that Council is aware staff is undertaking in the next year or so.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Woodward?
Yeah, that's helpful, because I was going to note that there wasn't much rationale in the staff report beyond sort of maintaining the status quo restriction that was in the BC building code. So I just want to get it stated again that if we send this public hearing and ultimately support maintaining the restriction, just a question through to staff, that there is going to be some openness to expanding it and considering some alternatives down the road, because what is the harm in allowing a basement suite, for example, to be a few hundred square feet larger, and understanding what some of that might be, versus my concern being, of course, that once we pass this bylaw, or if we do pass this bylaw, then it becomes an entrenched bylaw that becomes very challenging to change, as opposed to status quo, which never has to defend why it's a good idea, because it's the status quo. So I'm wondering if we could maybe add some additional rationale for that, or maybe we could consider a slightly larger size rather than simply adopting what existed. Would that be possible? Could we get some additional rationale prior to third reading on some other options?
Mr.
Safi? Certainly, Your Worship. We can, staff can provide additional rationale or even potential options, but as I said, it is believed that the historic number, that being 90 square meters, that has been contained in the building code for over a decade was potentially the best approach to begin with a view to modifying it as additional information becomes available, such as I said, one piece of information that would lead into this would be the housing needs assessment that we are undertaking, and implications just off the top of my head include, as Council is aware, the potential for I guess additional parking requirements that would then be I guess driven by the size, based on the fact that the larger a suite than the larger or the higher number of occupants within that suite. So this is just the first I guess first stab at this, if you will, and the intent is for us to consider amending it, either to increase it or to even allow a secondary suite within other forms of housing, because currently the bylaw that we have restricts it to detached single-family dwelling units. So even row housing types of housing or townhouses don't allow it. So potentially council could direct staff to look at not just the size, but also potential accommodation within other forms of housing.
Yeah, I agree. So that was in some of the rationale for the BC Building Code. They have actually some good diagrams, if councillors get a chance to look at it over the break, in regards to different housing types and what basement suites might look like in some of those. Of course, the parking issue always comes up. But again, I'm not suggesting we go to 1,800 square feet or 1,700 square feet, but to allow some additional flexibility. The size of the house doesn't get any larger. The shell house can only be built to a certain size. It's a matter of the suite inside the house. Is it 900 square feet or 1,200 square feet? I hear from members of the public that they don't necessarily want to downsize from a house into a basement suite with their children and grandchildren into a 900 square foot apartment. And this, what is an extra few hundred square feet if you still end up with the same number of occupants? I just get concerned that when we adopt a new bylaw that it becomes nearly impossible to change later. So maybe there is some additional flexibility that we can add into it now. Because I don't suspect that we're going to get lots of people in that situation coming to the public hearing to express that. So I think for now, support going to public hearing, but I would like to see some additional rationale and some other options to propose at third reading. Thanks.
Thank you. I see no further discussion. I'll call the question on E1. It carries unanimously. Move on to E2, rezoning application number 100597 and development permit application 101139, Sun Life Assurance Company of Canada, bylaw 5545. Could I have a motion, please? Councillor Davis, second by Councillor Whitmarsh. Any discussion, Councillor Richter?
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure that there's going to be appropriate safety fencing, as well as probably camera monitoring in order to protect the children there, because that's a very busy traffic area in there. People going from the mall to the theater and cutting through there.
I think they'll be complying with the regulations that regulate daycares, Mr. Sefi. Yeah, thanks.
That's correct, Your Worship.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I'll call the question on E2. Carries unanimously. Go on to E3, rezoning application number 100558 and development permit application number 101060. Narayan Prasad, bylaw 5543 and 5544. Could I have a motion, please? Councillor Ferguson moves, seconder. Councillor Whitmarsh seconds. Discussion. Seeing none, I'll call the question on E3. Carries unanimously. Move on to E4. Rezoning application number 100521 and development permit application numbers 100997 and 101156 and development variance permit 100116. Waterstone Anderson Limited. Bylaw 5534, bylaw 5535. Could I have a motion, please? Councillor Ferguson in a second. Councillor Davis, discussion. Seeing none, call the question on E4. Carries. Councillor Richter and Councillor Arneson opposed. And move on to E5. Rezoning application number 100494, development permit application 101140. Development variance permit application number 100114, Westmont Homes, bylaw 5540 and 5546. Could I have a motion, please? Councillor Whitmarsh, second by Councillor Kunst. Discussion, seeing none. Oh, Councillor Richter.
Yeah, I just had a question on page 3. It references a party wall. I'm just wondering what that means. Is it like literally a wall for parties?
Must be
Mr. Sefi?
Your Worship, I'm trying to find the reference, but if it's party, it is typically referred to the requirement for firefighting or a firewall, if you will, between two units. But it could also be, as Councillor Ferguson is suggesting, a typo, and it could be a hardy.
All right. And I just want to note that 59 significant trees are being lost here. Not as bad as the previous one, which was 195 trees gone.
Okay, thank you. I'll call the question on E5. And it carries. Councillor Richter and Councillor Arneson opposed. Now we move on to bylaws for first, second, and third reading. F1 is regional harmonization of heavy truck definition and regulations. Bylaw number 5552. Could I have a motion, please? Councillor Kunst moves it, seconded. Councillor Arneson. Councillor Richter.
Yeah, I see that this harmonized regulation now means that heavier trucks can go on the road. It's being increased from 10,000 kilos up to 11.8 kilos. I'm just wondering if our staff have given any thought to the potential cost implications for our roads in terms of them wearing out sooner.
Mr. Sefi.
Your Worship, the difference is actually negligible, and the fact that historically it was 10,000 kilograms as opposed to 11,800 was really an anomaly that existed in our bylaw, as opposed to some other jurisdictions who actually had the 11,800 based on the region and the provincial requirements.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Davis.
Just, I didn't see it in the report. Maybe I missed it. I just want to clarify. This doesn't have anything to do with heavy farm vehicles, does it? I guess I should clear. Like if it's a licensed truck, it has to abide by certain rules. But if it has an A plate on it, and it's pulled by, I don't know, a tractor, or does it, or
Implement.
This
an implement of husbandry and a tractor.
animal, yeah. So that's in a different. That's in a different category. Is a G plate, an agriculture plate, going to fall into heavy trucks just because of the 11,800 pound?
If it's a licensed vehicle, like a truck, it has a farm plate with a G on it. As I understand it, they still have to comply with the Motor Vehicle Act and regulations when it comes to weight restrictions and that sort of thing. If you're talking a tractor, that wouldn't be part of this. But all commercial vehicles, they include farm vehicles, trucks, and heavy trucks too, follow in the same category. Is my
I don't know if
understanding.
that's
Is that
an
correct?
issue,
Yes.
but,
Yeah.
That's correct, Your Worship.
okay, thank you.
Yeah. Oh, and it always has. Okay, I'm going to call the question then on F1. That carries unanimously. Move on to F2. This is 2020 Revenue Anticipation Borrowing Bylaw number 5551. Could I have a motion, please? Councillor Davis and a seconder. Second. Councillor Whitmarsh. Discussion. Seeing none. Call the question on F2. That carries unanimously. Now we're on to bylaws for consideration at third reading. G1 is official community plan amendment and rezoning application number 100177 and development permit application number 101023. This is Carvalth A6 Avenue, LP, and the bylaws are 5528, 5529, 5530, 5531. And so what's being moved then, Councillor Ferguson, is the this is a consideration, so it'd be that what's listed under A. Is that correct, Mr. Sefi?
Your Worship,
So just maybe you can get some background, because there was this did go back and is not coming
certainly.
back to us.
Thank you,
Thanks.
Your Worship. This, as Your Worship, you have identified, this was an item that the proponent at time of public hearing requested council to, I guess, consider certain variances, if you will, to our typical requirements and certain extensions or variations. And council at time of third reading did consider that request by the proponent and referred it back to staff and did not give it third reading. The considerations that had been requested specifically were, I guess, twofold. The first part was to amend the term of the housing agreement for one of the buildings from, I guess, being able to be stratified or restricting it from being able to be stratified from 20 years to 10 years. 20 years was what staff had negotiated and made a requirement, and the proponent had asked for that to be changed to 10 years. And the other request was for, I guess, consideration of some kind of either a reduction or a waiver of the CACs. And when council referred this to staff, council specifically had a couple of numbers. The first part, I guess, in terms of the housing agreement, that was just simply referred to staff to consider. But in terms of the waiver of the CACs, council had 80% reduction, in return for which the proponent was asked to consider a maximum of 80% reduction for a minimum of 10% of the units to be affordable. The proponent the staff have met with the proponent, and he has come back with an offer, if you will, a proposal. First of all, he has withdrawn the request for the reduction of the term for the rental to be reduced from 20 to 10, so that's no longer an issue. He can remain or retain the 20-year term, and that's not a financial encumbrance, but rather the 80% he has agreed to provide in terms, or the 10% of affordable units he's agreed to provide, in return for which he's asking for 80% of the units to be, I guess, not have to pay the CACs, exempt from CACs. Because of that, and in light of the, I guess, the request being made by the proponent and the referral by council, and the fact that there's really no policy provision for staff to provide council with any specific direction, staff is simply providing council with information as far as the proponent's offer is concerned, and asking council to consider, and then after consideration to direct staff to proceed one way or the other, either to entertain the offer or amend it or reject it or whatever council deems appropriate.
Okay, thank you. And the genesis for the reduction in CACs, the CAC program, did it apply to rental projects at any point in time? And is that why there's a change, and there was a change at some point during this whole process?
Not since the adoption, Your Worship. The CAC program had been discussed for a number of years, I believe 2 years prior to it being adopted by council in 2018. Prior to 2018 adoption, there may have been other versions of or other I guess, elements of a potential policy being discussed with the development industry that may have included potentially exempting rental units. But not since the adoption, there has not been any changes.
Thank you. Okay, so Councillor Ferguson, you were moving.
I got some confusion.
Okay, so
I wanted to clarify, Mr.
okay, so
Bylaws for
okay, just hang on. Just slow down a little bit. I've got a speakers list here, but we don't have a motion on the floor. So if there's some questions regarding that, because it is a bit complex, I'll entertain those questions just regarding this before we get the motion on the floor, so we're clear of the motion. So I'll just go. Okay. So division on what? Let's see. I just want to make sure. Yeah. Let me just get your mic on.
The 80% exemption, and the next one would be the actual bylaw without the exemption, with or without the exemption. That's the way I saw it, if I may.
Yeah, I don't know, Mr. Back, and I don't know if we can divide it. I think it almost goes one way or the other.
I think that these are different motions, Your Worship. The A suggests, as the proponent suggested, the reduction, whereas the alternative is to proceed without their reduction. So it's kind of path one or path two, that they're not compatible.
So, Councillor Ferguson, you were going to move it. Are you going to move it with the reduction and the 10%?
I'd rather not right now. Yeah, I'd like to hear. I'd rather not. I'd like to
Okay,
go
that's
into the main
fine.
motion first, and we can do that either first or second, or whatever way you want to dispose of it. But I'd rather not right now.
Okay. So I need someone to move it. Councillor Long, did you wish to move the motion with the...
So when you say move it, you mean the one that's in front of us here?
In front of us with
which is
waiving...
only the first paragraph, or is it all this A, B, C, D, E, F as well?
So perhaps,
is
Your
very
Worship,
confusing.
I can just provide another clarification.
Yes.
So the first part, the recommendation is just simply for council to consider. If council chooses after consideration to support or proceed or concur with the offer that's been made, then the rest from A to F conditions, all of those will apply only if council wishes to entertain the offer.
Okay. And from your discussion with the proponent, this offer was put... he did come to the public hearing. He did ask for it. You worked with him. This is what what's come back. So it's basically we take this, vote on it. If it doesn't go through, then I don't know what the alternative is, because we can vote on it without that offer, but he may not come back with it. That's we may. Yeah, that's right. So I think it's one motion to consider all of it. So I need someone to move that, and then we can get. Okay, Councillor Whitmarsh moves it. Seconder, Councillor Arneson. Okay, Councillor Long, do you wish to speak to it?
Okay, so it is very confusing, but I mean, I'd like to know on what basis I mean, I think it's a great project. I support it, but I mean, the CAC exemption of 80% is based upon what? Because we have other rental units being constructed in the township. I know that we've given exemption to affordable housing projects, to nonprofits and BC Housing and those kinds of things, right? I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but that's my understanding.
No, Your Worship.
But what about other rental? Okay, maybe staff can explain, Your Worship, because I'm...
Mr. Seffi?
Your Worship, there has been no exemptions to CACs. The only exemption to CACs has been for those applications that had received third reading prior to council adopting the policy. That's the only exemption.
So the exemptions we've given were DCCs, weren't they?
That's correct.
That's right, which I always thought we should do a grant instead of an exemption. So this is the first time we're running across this. So if this happens here, which may be the right thing to do, that means any rental housing project that comes forward would expect the same thing. Now, the affordable part is so that's a statement, I guess, that can't be refuted. If we do this now, that means all rental housing from here out would have that, or is it rental housing that has a component of 10% affordable?
No, each one would be on its own merits. Yeah. It wouldn't be.
But what about
this
10% affordable that's in here? How does that bear in? Can someone explain to me how? Currently, we have no requirement for 10% or any percentage to be affordable. And what, by the way, is affordable?
Well, the affordable is the formula that's used also by Metro Vancouver.
Well, they don't call it affordable. There's another name for it, the cap thing, in other words, that it was based on 30%.
So the 80% came by about I'm just going to round it up. Say there's 500 units total. It's around 500 units. So 400 units was what the zoning allowed for. We were doing a variance to allow for the extra 100 units. So we're saying you can pay the full DCCs on the extra 100 and waiving on the 400 because it's putting some rental into the community, and that's up to council to decide. So the number came out to 80%. To, I suppose, make it more palatable, the proponents offered a minimum of 10% of residential units being affordable. And so, Mr. Steffi, if you can maybe elaborate a little bit on affordable, what the definition is.
Thank you, Your Worship. We have a bylaw in the Township of Langley that relates to exemption of DCCs for affordable housing. That has, in effect, related or conveyed or referenced BC housing as being the definition for what constitutes affordable housing, which is based on the level of income for the household. So, and that relates again to where in the province you reside and what size of a unit is actually being considered. So for our region, depending on whether you're looking at a 1-bedroom, 2-bedroom, or 3-bedroom, or 4-bedroom and larger types of units, there is a minimum income level that is identified by BC Housing as being the trigger for what is then deemed to be an affordable housing unit. Does that make sense?
Thank you. And so one other question on the DCCs for affordable housing. We do have a bylaw that doesn't apply to this. A bylaw to waive DCCs. Does that apply to this one? I don't see anything about that in here.
No, it doesn't, Your Worship. Only insofar as how we are to determine what affordable housing means, what affordable unit means.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Richter.
I actually think this is a lousy deal, and I'm not supporting it. This is a very dense development. We all know that density brings more needs to this community, and the CACs were put in place to help start getting development to pay for itself. Now, an 80% reduction, which is the maximum deduction that can be asked for the minimum amount of affordable units, is just simply not good enough. I would say either reduce to 80% for the 10% affordable units, or if they want an 80% reduction in their CACs, they should have 80% of their units affordable. But this is outrageous, and Councillor Long is right. It's going to set a precedent going forward, and I don't think this is the precedent we want to set.
Thank you, Councillor Woodward.
Yeah, I'm just going to, I think that the CAC giveaways need to stop. I mean, so for me, like, it's pretty simple. I looked at this originally and wanted to speak to it at third reading, and what's occurring, if you actually go back and look at it, is about an 80,000, I think I made my notes here somewhere, about an 80,000, no, sorry, 56,000, I have my notes here somewhere. Remind me, I could just ask the staff. What is the square footage density increase on this project?
Mr. Richardson, do you recall what that is? I don't have it off the top of my head.
Keep pushing your button, Councillor Wong.
Is this it? Yep. So, Your Worship, is on page G120 of the hard copy, and the request or the community plan amendment would be for 37,573 square meters. 37,573.
What's that in square feet for us older ones?
I apologize. That's the overall total, not the difference. I'm looking for the number that shows the difference.
Like about 70,000 square feet, Mr. Sefi?
That's correct. 68,000.
68,000 square feet of additional floor area, which I think in the staff report elsewhere, I've got it here, is approximately 90 to 100 additional units, 47 of which will be affordable. So we're allowing, or I think contemplating, an additional density of 100 units, additional market rental density of 50 units in exchange for 40 affordable units. I think that's a perfectly reasonable deal to accept. And on top of that, a CAC reduction is too much. So I personally don't accept the CAC exemption. I think but I'd like to approve the rest of the development. I think the other issue I have with it is some of the community amenity items that are packaged up as community amenities really aren't community amenities. To me, an interior addition of amenity space, rainwater capture, and a rough-in for a few electrical charging stations is not a community benefits package. The community benefits package has been quantified in the community amenities contribution program, and we should stick to that program and stop considering exemptions. But in this case, we're offering additional density, half of which is affordable and half of which is market. I find that to be more than enough to make the development more market viable. Rental projects are good projects. You get significant financial incentives from CMHC, upwards of 40 and 50-year amortizations, 100% construction financing, very competitive rates. There's nothing wrong with rental projects. They're not some albatross that developer has to deal with. You don't have to do pre-sales. You can do 100% financing and sell the project to very large companies that want projects like this. The affordable component is additional density that's being requested, which we're granting. On top of that, a CAC reduction for all of that density, as contemplated within the program, is too significant a request, and I hope we don't support it. Thanks.
Thank you. Councilor Richter.
Yeah, I have a question through you to staff, if I may. If I put an amendment forward that we reduce to 80% for the 10% affordable units only, and that amendment passes, does that mean that this entire bylaw will have to go back and come back with revisions? Because the rest of it is set up around the 80% overall.
I don't believe so, Your Worship, as long as Council is empowering staff to make the adjustments to the rest of the bylaw and the policies and all the other I guess secondary documents, tertiary documents, based on Council's direction to amend the first part as Council chooses. So as long as that is clear in the resolution, I think we can then proceed with the adjustments as necessary throughout the entirety of the bylaws that are involved.
Okay, well, if that's the case, then I would propose an amendment that the reduction of 80% to the amount of the community amenities contributions payable be for the 10% residential units being affordable. So in other words, only those 10% units would have reduced CAC contributions.
Okay, so on the amendment, any discussion on the amendment?
So do you have wording there, Mr. Backen, perhaps, that
it's
make
reducing,
that very clear?
It's basically taking 80%, just saying 80% of the 10% affordable units.
Yeah, if you're putting affordable units in, we'll reduce your CACs.
Just for
those units.
Just for 10% of the. So okay, got that clear? Okay.
Correct.
Any discussion on that? Seeing none, I'll call the question on the amendment. And it looks like Mayor Froese is opposed. It carries. Motion as amended. Further discussion, Councillor Long.
I think I'm good with it now. Yeah.
Okay. Call Councillor Richter.
Yeah, I just want to make it clear that to staff that the rest of the wording in this will probably have to be changed to reflect the 80% for just those 10% affordable units.
Yeah, I think that was what Mr. Sefi said. That's assumed that all the motion actually follows through to make those necessary changes.
or restated, the CACs will apply to 90% of the project, but for the 10% that are affordable, then they will have only the 80% reduction in the CACs.
Now, if the proponent decides to up the number of affordable units, do they need to come back to us, or can they take it from 10% to 20% affordable units and still get the 10% reduction?
We'd need to reflect, but I believe they'd have to come back, and that may trigger a public hearing. We'd have to be giving some thought to that.
Okay.
Councillor Arneson?
Thank you, Worship. I just thought I'd weigh in. I'm a little reluctant. I understand the economics of the situation, but I just like to underline the fact that we don't have any affordable housing in rental stock in the township of Langley. And so we have some now that's sponsored by BC Housing, which is wonderful. But here we have somewhere that's ideally located for people who can take transit, they can take a bus. It's designed for that. And I understand there's some reluctance to consider giving more concessions than maybe the market would bear. But I look at this as maybe other people don't see it that way. I don't think necessarily it sets a precedent that would keep us from changing what the formula would be in the future. But I would really relish the idea that we have something to build a baseline on so that people who could really use an apartment situation like this would have something. I just hope we're going to be flexible enough if the developer comes back and says, sorry, no can do, that staff will continue to discuss this, because I feel it would be very unfortunate should this go down in flames entirely. And yeah, maybe we could get less density, but to have less density and no affordable housing would be a real loss.
Thank you. Councillor Woodward?
Yeah, I just want to add a couple of things to that. I mean, I think we all want more affordable housing in the Township of Langley, which is why I think we're agreeing to give an equal quantity of market rental for the affordable units, which will still be owned by the developer for market sale in 20 years. You're not creating permanent affordable housing like other municipalities are. I think that's been lost here as well. This is a 20-year restrictive covenant after which the units can be sold. And so I think in the end, even for me, this deal is a little tough to swallow, but as Councillor Arneson has said, there are no currently affordable housing supply in the township. So as the first one, perhaps it won't be our best one, but I think in the future, we need to get better at understanding what the economics of development are so we don't end up doing more of this. Like if we want to see more density and have it be the right kind of density and the right kind of places, we can support that. But that has to contribute, as we've now done with the Community Amenity Contribution Program, but also understand that this is not permanent and affordable housing that we're creating here. It has a time limit on it. Yeah. And I think we've given a very good deal for something that will be sold in 20 years. Thanks.
Thank you. Okay, so no further discussion. A question for Mr. Seffi. So this passes if the proponent wishes to make further changes. It basically would trigger another public hearing if they, this isn't going to come back. If it passes, it's going to go through. If the proponent doesn't like it or if this isn't doable for them, doesn't meet the pro forma, then they'd have to reapply or make some changes and then come back for another public hearing. Is that correct?
That's correct, Your Worship. That's, as Mr. Backen referenced earlier, that's our current understanding of potential likelihood of next steps, should that be the case.
Okay. Okay, thank you. I'll call the question on G1 as amended. There, just hit it once. Carries unanimously. Move on to bylaws for final adoption, and this is official community plan amendment and rezoning application number 100125, and that's bylaw 5206 and 5207. Could I have a motion on the bylaws, please? Councillor Long moves. A seconder. I have a seconder. Councillor Woodward seconds. Discussion on the bylaws. H1. Calling the question. Carries. Councillor Richter, Councillor Arneson opposed. There are two development permits, so I'll do the first one first. Development permit application 10840. Could I have a motion, please? Councillor Davis, second. Councillor Whitmarsh, call the question on the first development permit. Carries. Councillor Richter and Councillor Arneson opposed. Motion for the development permit 100835. Could I have a motion, please? Councillor Long, second by Councillor Davis. Discussion, see none. Call the question on H1. second development permit. Oh, carries. Councillor Richter, Councillor Arneson opposed. Were you in favor?
No, I'm in favor.
Okay, yeah. Okay, so that's done. H1 is done. H2, Heritage Revitalization Agreement, the Perry Evans Residence, bylaw 5227. Can I have a motion, please? Move. Councillor Davis, second by Councillor Ferguson. See no discussion. Call the question on H2. It carries. Councillor Arneson opposed. H3, Drainage Development Works Agreement bylaw, bylaw 5488. Can I have a motion, please? Councillor Davis, seconder. A second. Councillor Kunst. See no discussion. Question H3. It carries unanimously. H4 is official community plan amendment to rezoning application number 100175. We'll do bylaw 5362 and bylaw 5415. Can I have a motion, please? Councillor Long, seconder. Councillor Ferguson, discussion for bylaws. Seeing none, call the question on H4. H4. It carries. Councillor Richter opposed. Development permit application 100927. Can I have a motion on the development permit? Councillor Kunst moves. Seconder. Councillor Woodward. Discussion. Seeing none, call the question on the development permit on H4. Carries. Councillor Richter opposed. And we move to reports to council. There is 2 development permits here. Development permit application number 100981, Garcha Properties. Could I have a motion, please? Councillor Long, seconder. Have a second. Councillor Whitmarsh, seconds. At this point, I'd ask for any input from the or submissions from the public regarding development permit 100981, I1. For a second time, submissions from the public regarding I1. And for a third time, submissions to the public regarding I1. Okay, seeing none, close that portion. Any discussion from council? Seeing none, call the question on I1. Carries. Councillor Richter and Councillor Arneson opposed. And I2 is development permit application number 100982, Garcha Properties. And could I have a motion, please? Could I have a motion? Councillor Davis moves. Councillor Long seconds. And at this point, I'd ask for submissions from the public regarding development permit application number 100982, I2. And for the second time, submissions to the public for I2. And for a third time, submissions to the public for I2. Seeing none, close that portion. Anything from council? Seeing none, I'll call the question on I2. And that carries. Councillor Richter and Councillor Arneson opposed. All right, now we move to the mayor and council report. Got a couple of reports. Very quickly, I'll go through the mayor's report. Then I have a presentation on the year in review. So good evening, everyone. Welcome to the last council meeting of 2019. On Tuesday, December 3rd was a biannual mayor's forum hosted by the RCMP in Burnaby, which I attended. Also that day, Acting Mayor Kuntz and I toured the newly renovated office space for Shoreline Counseling Agency that is relocating to Fort Langley. The renovation was done by JustWorks, a charitable organization who hires people with challenges to help build their skills and complete projects for clients all over the Lower Mainland. And nice to see new businesses in Fort Langley. As well, the Langley School District 35 hosted its annual Christmas social at their offices in Murrayville on December the 3rd. Councillor Arneson and I attended the annual UDI holiday reception in downtown Vancouver on Thursday, December the 5th. Great, lots of people there, lots of contacts. On Saturday, December the 7th was Langley City's annual Magic of Christmas Parade. Township Council, that's cute. Township Council attended, were Councillor Arneson, Ferguson, Davis, I believe. Anybody else? No. And Councillor Kunst? And Councillor Kunst. Okay, and on earlier the day, I provided opening remarks at the Fort Langley Community Hall for a fundraising brunch and Dream Christmas Market to benefit the City Dream Centre, a non-profit organization aiming to support the underprivileged and vulnerable citizens in Greater Vancouver. On Tuesday, December 10th, was the Greater Langley Chamber of Commerce's annual holiday day dinner meeting, where H.D. Stafford Good Citizen of the Year Award was presented to Gus Hartle, a long-time Fraser Valley resident. Gus gives back to others through the Aldergrove Credit Union's Community Involvement Program, Rotary Club, and many other initiatives and events. Congratulations to Gus. On On Wednesday, December 11th, the Township's Economic Investment and Development staff and I toured the Signify manufacturing facility in northwest Langley, formerly called Phillips Lighting. Signify has recently renewed a 10-year lease for its 140,000 square foot facility, and they employ 200 people in their facility, and they make made-to-order LED lights, and they ship all over the world. It's quite interesting for all kinds of large buildings in the commercial trade. On Saturday, December the 14th, was the annual Olive Grove Christmas Light-Up Parade, where Councils Arneson, Davis, Ferguson, Kuntz, Long, Whitmarsh, and myself participated. And I found an elf along the way. You're shaking your head. Last time you do a selfie with me. But a lot of participants. I think Councillor Long is probably one of the biggest ever. I think from what I heard, is really good. So thank you very much. And Councillor Long was the narrator along the way as we came by. So thank you. So additional events that Acting Mayor Kuntz attended: the coin toss for the BCCFA Championships, and kickoff to the Miracle on Church Street, which Councillor Whitmarsh also attended. Gateway of Hope's 10th anniversary luncheon, along with Councillor Arneson. The screening of The Resistance Banker, hosted by Consul General of the Netherlands, Henk Snoeken. Yeah, that's pretty cool. Arya Mountain Secondary School's grand opening, along with Councillors Arneson and Ferguson. And Acting Mayor Kuntz and Councillor Arneson met with students from Alder Grove Community Secondary School to talk about climate action. And Councillor Arneson attended the 2277 Seaforth Highlanders of Canada's dinner on their dinner on Sunday, December 8th. So thank you very much. I do want to report, before I do this, just on your distribution today, item number 1 is the transportation planning policy. It's a report that came to the Mayor's Council regarding the intermunicipal business license for ride hailing, and I did want to put that as part of my Mayor's report. The Mayor's Council adopted that, and the intent is to have something come to all of the councils by the end of January. It'll come to the Mayor's Council by the end of January, that we can then take to our councils to coordinate an intermunicipal business license for ride hailing. So there are working groups. There's a staff working group at TransLink that they're working on this. They'll bring back to the mayors, then we'll bring it back to council. So I think last meeting, Councillor Ferguson was asking for an update on it, and this report was the closed report that was released to the public. So kind of gives you a background of what we discussed. And we felt it was important that we expedite this as quickly as possible and not wait a year to put this together. We figured, we figured we could do this much sooner. So that should be coming at the end of January. So, year in review. Get your popcorn out. Oh, yeah. You got it right in front of you. So, just like to go over some of the accomplishments that Council has done over the last year. And it's been a busy 2019, the first year of a 4-year term. Certainly want to thank all of Council for all the hard work that they've done. And these are just a few of the highlights. So this past April, the Minister of Infrastructure and Communities, the Minister of Infrastructure and Communities, Premier John Horgan, and Council announced a $235.5 million in joint funding for upgrades to Highway 1. The work involves a total of 10 kilometers between 216th Street and 264th by adding a new high-occupancy vehicle lane in each direction, reconfiguring the 232 Street interchange, and adding a new underpass at Glover Road and the CP Rail crossing. A new truck parking lot will also be added near Highway 1 and 17 for up to 150 commercial trucks and up to 45 passenger vehicles. And these upgrades will help ease congestion and support a transportation network, making it safer and easier for people and goods to move throughout our busy growing region. So big changes are also underway at our Langley Regional Airport with the development of a new office tower, along with the expansion of our hangar capacity and road and street lighting improvements. The Langley Regional Airport is recognized as the second largest concentration of rotary wing heli aircraft in Canada. So I had a sneak peek of the office building there, and they're coming along. It's getting furnished, and it looks like NAV Canada will be moving into the tower fairly soon also, as they get that fully developed. The museum project in Fort Langley, $3 million in federal funding came our way this year to assist in the planning. The Township of Langley will build the Fort Langley Museum's Heritage Centre in a 36,000 square foot cultural facility. Centre will house the Langley Centennial Museum and a new Indigenous museum developed with the Government of Canada. As curators and stewards of culture and history, museums play an essential role in promoting and showcasing our nation's collective stories Thanks to this investment, the Township of Langley and the Kwantlen First Nation will bring renewed vibrancy to this historic area in the spirit of reconciliation and partnership. So this is a project that is still underway, and hopefully we'll see this start to take shape soon. And when it comes to affordable housing, we just had a big discussion on it. Emmaus Place is an affordable rental housing project. Shepherd of the Valley Lutheran Church worked with levels of government to ensure this project came to fruition. The Township of Langley was pleased to support and accommodate this important project in alignment with the Housing Action Plan and find development solutions to help ensure its success and affordability. It'll make a vital difference, especially for our seniors. And we're also pleased with the opening of Creekstone Place. These units offer supportive housing and is operated by Stepping Stone Community Services. The neighborhood planning process in the Brookswood Fernridge area is underway. The team of community members is providing input, sharing perspectives, and helping shape the future of neighborhoods. In addition, Council passed the Tree Protection Bylaw, which will regulate, prohibit, and safeguard trees on private and public land. I think it means prohibit the taking down of unauthorized trees, or unauthorized cutting of trees, that should be. And the Township of Langley is charging forward with sustainable transportation options that encourage the use of electric vehicles through its new low-carbon mobility plan. The plan, which was recently adopted by Township Council, outlines ways the municipality can move towards transportation systems that emit low or no greenhouse gas emissions and focuses on EVs, which are currently the most low-carbon passenger vehicles. Developed through best practice research and in consultation with residents, the plan includes strategies that will help the township support EV adoption in the community and within the township's fleet. Here's one for the chief. The Township of Langley Fire Department is the first agency to become an international accredited agency in the province of British Columbia. It is the 9th agency in Canada to earn internationally accredited fire organization standing. Accreditation is about self-improvement and a huge step towards enhancing our decision-making processes when it comes to serving the community. Through accreditation, the Township Fire Department's performance and professionalism will be raised regarding the resources we deploy, the services we provide. So congratulations on that. And since we're going to now head over to Aldergrove. Since opening in the summer of 2018, the Aldergrove Credit Union Community Centre has been offering an abundance of indoor and outdoor fun and recreation opportunities, and the impact it is having on the surrounding community has been honored with a provincial award. The 2019 Stan Rogers Memorial Award was presented to the Township of Langley for the ACUCC by the BC Economic Development Association. The award recognizes a private or public project that is making the most significant economic impact in the community. There you see Councillor Long receiving the award on behalf of Council. Thank you very much. Now, if you just all turn around and look at the beautiful artwork, a unique work of art that was literally captured the community, was created by a talented Indigenous artist and installed in a public gathering place for everyone to enjoy. The mosaic mural called Stolau, meaning Big River, was created by artist Phyllis Atkins of the Kwantlen First Nation as a legacy project to recognize Canada's 150th birthday in 2017. The artwork, installed in the Township of Langley Civic Facility in this room, and was unveiled during a Township Council meeting last April with the artists and members of the Kwantlen First Nation in attendance. And as you can see, it's a beautiful works of art that'll be here for many, many years. I think for the enjoyment of council as we sit back here and listen, look at that, and it kind of calms you. Do you think? Okay. The opening, and then we had something else that happened great in Langley. We opened the Raptors Knoll Disc Golf Course at Jackman Wetlands Park in Aldergrove that took place last June. And this course is described by disc golf enthusiasts as impressive, special, and an artistic labor of love. The course was created through the vision of several disc golf enthusiasts who formed the Jackman Wetlands Disc Golf Society. And as I understand it, they have 3 courses there, beginner, intermediate, and advanced, and it is one of the top courses, I think, in North America, if not in Canada, and draws people from all over. So there I'm attempting to throw a disc, but not very well. And back to Derek Doubleday Arboretum. The Rotary Interpretive Centre was created as a partnership between the Township of Langley and the Rotary Club of Langley. One of the primary functions of the park is to educate people about the vast array of cultural and environmental uses for plants. The centre will serve as a focal point for these activities while celebrating the beauty and versatility of wood and demonstrating sustainable design. The facility will also serve visitors to the Arboretum and the general public with restrooms, bookable meeting space, and a kitchenette. Also added to the Derek Doubleday Arboretum was the Beverly Ann Clay Rose Garden, named after a gardening enthusiast and pioneering plant lover. Still at the park, a symbol of sacrifice, honor, and gratitude for the important contribution Canada made to the Korean War during the Battle of Cap Young was unveiled by the Township of Langley in January. The stone was presented to the township by Gapyeong County, South Korea, as a gesture of appreciation for Canada's involvement in the Korean War, in tribute to the Canadian soldiers who served and sacrificed in the pivotal Battle of Gapyeong. The Liberation 75 planting also occurred there. The picture on the right there had 1.1 million tulips planted across the country to recognize the 1.1 million Canadians who served in the Second World War, and marks the milestone anniversary of the liberation of the Netherlands. I think we picked the rainiest, stormiest day to plant, or do that ceremonial planting. I think the next rainiest, stormiest day was when we dedicated the Gapyeong stone. We seem to do that over there. We're honored to remember the Canadian soldiers who had such a huge impact on the Dutch people, and to celebrate the anniversary of an accomplishment that was monumental for the Netherlands and Canada and for the entire world. So look for it next spring. 7,500 orange tulips are going to burst from the ground there into full bloom. Looking forward to that. The Mayor's second annual charitable gala, in partnership with the Township of Langley's Firefighters Charitable Society, was a huge success. $630,000 was raised this year, with $500,000 donated to the new 15-bed Langley Hospice. We welcomed 600 guests to the Standard Arrow location, where everyone enjoyed a great meal, drinks, and entertainment. Most significantly, we witnessed the true generosity of this community, something we can all be very proud of. I want to thank all the sponsors and guests who attended, enjoyed the evening, and were so generous. All the accomplishments mentioned are just some of the reasons we were named third best municipality to work in by BC Business Magazine this year. This community has a lot to offer, and we know our township provides an exceptional experience for those who work, farm, and live here. We are the fastest growing municipality in Metro Vancouver, and as more and more people continue to discover all the Township of Langley has to offer, we will continue to provide the quality of life and opportunities people are looking for. So first and second, in no particular order, was Squamish and Whistler, and I think they beat us because they have great skiing, snowboarding, and mountain biking activities there. So we are having a hard time to get that, so we need to build a mountain. That's next year. Surrey is building a canal. I'll build a mountain. How's that? So with that, I'd just like to say all the best to everyone, and on behalf of Council, have a wonderful Christmas, and we'll see everyone in 2020. However, we still have a little more business to do yet, so don't run away. But I just want to say that it's been a great year, and we're looking forward to even more greatness happening in the next year. So thank you very much for listening to it, and it's just a few highlights of what we accomplished over the last several months, last 12 months. With that, I'll go back to my agenda, find out where we left off. So we're into other business, and we have notice of motion from Councillor Arneson. I'll put you're on, Councillor Arneson.
Yes, thank you, Worship. I'm bringing this forward for something to do in 2020, so I won't read the entirety of the motion, but just the final paragraph, because it gives a synopsis of what's being requested. Therefore, be resolved that Council directs staff to review the app-based, on-demand TransLink micro-transit pilot project delivered on Bowen Island in concert with TransLink and the Mayor's Council. This analysis should include a presentation and report back to Council regarding the potential to implement a similar pilot project within an identified community in the township, and this report should further include recommendations regarding the rationale for implementation based on a feasibility study and pilot project to be funded by TransLink, as well as a detailed report upon its completion in order to inform its potential for any subsequent integration into our transportation-based climate action plans.
Okay, moved by Councillor Arneson, second by Councillor Richter. Did you wish to speak to it, Councillor Arneson?
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Worship. I'm not sure if anybody had an opportunity to look into this, but the mayor was showing some photos of a UDI event. I happened to go to one that was in Surrey, and one of the speakers on the panel was speaking to a situation that we have in the township, which is that we have some communities, as we're trying to densify and build out, that will likely take some time in order to get transportation to them on a regular basis. And so the idea was to get some micro projects going to try and create a sense of how much ridership could there be, when would it be. So it basically gives a bit of a footprint about what would be necessary and informs us about what our future plans could look like. So I do have something from the paper in Bowen Island. It talks generally about the project. TransLink was involved. It's got on demand, so they had different user types on weekdays and weekends. I won't go into it too much because the whole idea is to get staff to bring back some information about whether or not this could be something that we could try in the township. But I would say that my first thought was that we should consider the area around the University District, perhaps going off to Fort Langley and also Willoughby and Walnut Grove area as a potential pilot project area. But of course, that's up to staff and council consideration of whether or not they want to support this motion.
Okay, thanks. So I know they're doing a pilot project over in Bowen Island and they haven't completed it yet. I'm just wondering, maybe we want to wait and see when they've completed their pilot project to see how it would work in the Township of Langley. So I'm a little bit leery of going all this way at this point without hearing how that pilot project worked, rather than starting another pilot project before we even heard from the first one. So, but I'll see what Council has to say and what we do with this. Councillor Ferguson?
Well, yeah, I think that another example of is a Gloucester area. They're always looking for pilot projects. And I think that anything we can do to improve transit for our community, to work with the TransLink, as you know, you're vice chair, so I know you're always helping us out. I mean, I'm still a little bit concerned about the fact that Surrey Council and I guess a year and a bit ago had tried to push hard to get a Surrey to Langley City SkyTrain in line. It didn't come that far. I think it's going to go as far as Fleetwood. So I mean, it's the Surrey to Surrey SkyTrain, and when it comes out this way, we don't know. It's a bit of a disappointment, but certainly all of us in the township here are concerned about transit, and I think we're the last major community without rapid transit of the like of either SkyTrain or one of the other ones. So certainly, anything we can do to improve transit certainly in the Township of Langley, I'm certainly supportive.
Okay. So I'm just wondering if we don't defer this until we hear from the pilot project, and then we can bring it back to council to discuss, because right now there is a pilot project going on. I don't know if TransLink is going to start another pilot project, but once we hear how this pilot project has worked, perhaps it's something we can do, and we'll have more information from TransLink. So I would entertain a motion to defer this to hear back from TransLink. So Councillor Arneson, maybe you can speak to that.
Thank you, Worship. I just stopped short of calling them today to find out where they're at, so I can only go by the most recent information that they have. So according to the newspaper, in September they had a couple of public engagement events. I feel the most important thing for us to consider at this time, and I understand what the mayor is saying, that maybe we should wait until they've done their analysis, but I think it's important for us to just take the first steps, because our situation is not advancing as quickly as we need. I think this is a really strong component in our low carbon policy for transportation. It's the area that we need to work on really most. And it would be the next step to get all the empirical information that we could inform going forward to TransLink and saying we actually need something here, because other way round is a chicken and the egg. We have to wait until such time as TransLink deems there is enough need for the service. So I think it's a really good way to engage the public and also to provide a needed service to areas that are underserviced. So I just say let's move ahead.
Okay, thank you. Any further discussion? Okay, I can't support it as it is, because we have to wait and see what starting a pilot project on top of another pilot project doesn't make sense. I would rather, and we will hear later how this, what what comes from this, but I can't support it in its current form, this motion. Councillor Long?
Well, I think we could see what Translic's doing. Can we find a win-win here somewhere? Can we defer this until that study comes in, and then we can add it to this?
Well, that would mean basically deferring this until we hear what the pilot project.
Timing on that, Your Worship.
I don't know. It's a pilot project, so it does have a beginning and an end, but I don't know when the end is right now.
Well, as much as I appreciate the idea, and I think it's a good one, I think we should wait and see what the other pilot project brings first, so we can learn from it.
Okay, Councillor Whitmarsh?
Yeah, I think there's certainly a benefit in waiting till we get the report back from Bowen Island and their pilot project, but I'm not sure the motion doesn't actually say that. The motion says to review the app-based TransLink microtransit pilot project delivered on Bowen Island. So it seems that it would be impossible to actually review it until the pilot project is completed in Bowen Island. So I kind of wonder if the motion is actually saying that anyways. It's just requiring us to review that project. It would require that to be completed before you could actually review it. So I'm not sure the motion doesn't say that.
Councillor Davis?
I would just say, if we're interested in it, nothing wrong with chit-chatting with Bowen, because it can be very interesting and we can watch it unfold. I'm going to support it because I don't, but it may be years, like a pilot project might, for them to actually put something down scientifically, it may be years. And I think that, we may have to wait that long, but there's nothing wrong with communicating with them and having a report back about what they're doing, even if it's halfway through. Because they're going to know, hey, they're going to know good and bad, and they're going to know what's tough and what's not working, and just to keep updated. Over.
Thank you, Councillor Ferguson.
Well, yeah, Mr. Mayor, I don't think you should look at it the fact that you have to vote against it. I don't think your TransLink backs up against. It's a notice of motion. I don't see it being time sensitive. We're going to get some information back from our staff. We're going to get some information as to what's occurring at Bowen. I think it's a win-win-win. I don't think there's a lose. I mean, if you vote against this, that doesn't mean to say that you're against transit. I think all it means it's going to be a report back, and I guess we'll have an opportunity to vote at a time. I'm just saying, repeating what Councillor Whitmarsh has already said and what Councillor Davis has already said, Councillor Long has already, I think it is a win-win-win. I don't think it's time sensitive, so I don't think anybody has to worry too much about voting against it because they're really not committing for too much.
Councillor Kunst?
Do we know how long one of these analysis, how long that would take? And then, I would support that, but it seems like we should wait for the information from Bowen Island, and then we can maybe make our staff not have to, work so hard. Those would be my comments.
Thank you. Yeah. Councillor Long?
Yeah, I'm rereading it here, and it says right there in the therefore be resolved, which is really what you're voting for, that the analysis being done on the Bowen Island thing. So I think that covers it. This could really work well for. I don't want to offend anybody. I can't remember what the real name of it is, but we call it Wrinkle City, which is quite a populous community down in at the almost Zero Avenue and 272nd. What about Gloucester, right? Pioneer Park, thank you. And Gloucester Estates. Here's another area that Transit has a tremendous challenge servicing, so it just doesn't get done. This might fit that. So I'm going to support it, Your Worship, because of those words saying that there has to be an analysis first of the Bowen Island project. So I think it has to be done, the Bowen Island thing has to be complete before we can analyze it, right?
So I have a question for staff here, because what this looks like to me is that we're asking our staff to do the analysis when TransLink staff are going to be doing the analysis. I don't understand why we're asking our staff to do what TransLink will be doing and then reporting back to the municipalities and to the Mayor's Council on this pilot project. We're now asking them to, and this is more than just waiting, because it's the analysis. This is analysis and a presentation and report back from our staff. I'd rather get it from TransLink staff. Then we have something to go on. But we're asking our staff to jump into the middle of a pilot project that somebody else is doing, to provide us with a presentation, analysis, and report back, feasibility studies, and another pilot project funded by TransLink when they're already doing one. So I just don't understand this whole motion. I agree that this is a great idea, but we're asking our staff to do extra work when it's going to be done by TransLink. So, Mr. Steffi, this motion, if it goes through, what does it mean to you? Because you're the one who will be tasked with sending it down to somebody to do this work.
Essentially some research, Your Worship. That's what I understand from the intent of the motion, for staff to conduct some research with both the jurisdiction Bowen Island as well as TransLink to find out what they're doing, what their findings may have been so far, when is the pilot program intended to end, conclude, do they plan to proceed with it elsewhere, what are the findings, and then report back to council. That's what staff understands from the motion.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Woodward?
Yeah, I just enjoyed your year in review there, Mr. Mayor, and I think one of the things that I've learned as a first-year councillor, having completed my first year, is that the more I talk, the longer the meeting goes on for. Thanks.
So you nothing to add to this? I have no idea what you meant. Okay, so I don't see any deferral motion or anything like that. I still think, and I think this is a good idea, but I think we should wait for TransLink, and then this motion would be more appropriate. So I'm not going to support it. I don't mind. I get lots of that. Okay, I'm calling a question on M1. And the council carries. Councillor Kuntz, Councillor Woodward, Mayor Froese opposed. Move on to M2. Councillor Arneson.
Oh, this is even worse. Okay, brace yourself. So I'll just read out the title of the motion: Water Conservation and Demand Management Plan for the Township of Langley. So I'll just read the last paragraph. Therefore, be it resolved that Council direct a Water Resources and Environmental Staff representative to provide a detailed report and presentation on the creation of a water conservation and demand management plan for the urbanized areas in the Township of Langley, which plan should include the provision of water meters in new residential developments based upon experiential data from across the region on implementation policies.
Moved by Councillor Arneson, second by Councillor Richter. Councillor Arneson, do you wish to speak to it?
Okay. If you were to read the entire motion, you would see that there are a couple of references to why we should actually be implementing these policies. So the first one refers to the auditing process that we underwent, local government's role in ensuring clean drinking water. And so it pointed out that we should actually have, as a best management practice, this demand management plan. I understand that the township does planning and that we do have services that take care of our drinking water, making sure it's potable, meets all regulatory requirements. However, I don't believe, according to the auditor's plan, that it is a formal plan that we are putting forward as a framework for how we're going to continue to act. And the second one is that Metro just published something called Water Metering as Best Management Practice. Oh, I think I'm referring to the wrong title, but in any event, that's what it's about. So what it's saying is, Township of Langley is actually, in case we didn't know, is quite dependent these days on Metro water. And if anybody had any questions about that, I think really the Murrayville situation that we've recently discussed should highlight the fact that we should not take for granted the fact that we have all this wonderful water in our aquifers and our groundwater, because in effect what's happening is that we continue to deplete those as we continue to grow. So there is some rationality with the Township of Langley. It refers in my motion saying the township gets 59% of its drinking water from the Greater Vancouver Water District in 2019. So that's a lot of water. So my motion is meant to look at how can we be the best stewards of a resource that we know is going to be continually stressed as a result of our population growth as well as climate change. So it is looking at something that I admit has been very controversial in the township of Langley, which is this idea that we should have water meters. But I refer to the fact that it's in residential developments in light of the fact that I know that there was a lot of concern in the countryside for people who reasonably thought that since they had drilled the well and maintained their own infrastructure, that they should not have to be metered. So this is an idea that's coming into play at the same time that we're developing new neighborhood plans, having thousands of people coming here, when the only rational thing to do is to consider water metering, because in effect, it is the only thing that people can relate to that gives them a sense of A, how much water they're using, and actually B, can be more cost effective because it's not a flat rate. So anybody who's had metered water knows that you pay for what you use. And across the board, different communities, and there's many that are cited in the Metro report, and they've all lowered their use of water. So I don't see necessarily that we know exactly what we need to do and how much it's going to cost, but this is just asking for staff to put together a report that I feel won't be difficult for them to develop so that they can bring this information to council for our consideration before we continue to proceed down the road that we're currently on.
You, Councillor Richter?
Yeah, and I think we need to have this discussion, particularly from the perspective of the massive increases in taxes and fees coming out of Metro Vancouver over the next 5 years. I think our residents would benefit from having their usage monitored or metered in order to keep those tax increases down for them. But I had a question here. I was wondering if the mover might consider a friendly amendment. Do you remember back a couple of months ago, Mr. Bruce Givens from Merville wrote to council and asked us to consider prohibiting the bottling of groundwater? And he's written back to me because he saw your motion on the he just wondered if we could include in the motion that we also look into prohibiting the bottling of groundwater, because apparently we may have been given incorrect information that there are several cities, towns, and villages and districts, particularly on Vancouver Island, that already have such bylaws in place and have and enacted those bylaws. So if we could revisit that question or as part of this report, I think it would be helpful as well.
You, Councillor Davis? So are we going to, well, I think it'd be a separate motion. This is a motion on water meeting, and that's a motion on prohibiting.
It's a motion on water conservation and stopping the bottling of water. It's water conservation.
I think we could entertain it as a separate motion, Mr. Back, and yeah, and then we'll deal with this, and then if you wish to put that on another business, then as a separate motion, yeah. We are in other business, so once we dispose of this, keeps it. Councillor Davis.
It is a creation of a water conservation and demand management plan for the urbanized areas. So I think we could get, we do some well monitoring. I think we had a 10-year plan 8 years ago, something like that. But that's in the rural areas. But you know, I don't know if putting in water measure, what am I looking for? Meters is something that I may not vote for, but definitely a creation of a water conservation plan and a management plan is something that we could look at. We're going to have to look at it someday. So I think I would support it, but I think that when it does come back, I could vote against it if it was too restrictive. But I think that somewhere along the line, you know, I can remember 40 years ago, a fella came and built a big greenhouse beside ours across the tracks, and he said, Davis, you'll never see a water shortage. Never, because he'd put a 6-inch main along into his greenhouse, and he says, you'll never see a water shortage, Davis, here in BC. And there's water everywhere, but I think the water we drink, we've got to look at it. So I'm going to vote for it.
Councilor Woodward?
Yeah, I just wanted to, before I spend time maybe talking about an amendment, Mr. Bracken, do we already have something that would be potentially considered a water conservation and demand management plan as part of operations over the past decade or two?
Safi?
Your Worship, yes, we do, is the short answer. We did complete a study, and we do have a water conservation plan or conservation management plan that was completed in 2013. It was not formally adopted by Council, but it does provide staff with a strategy in terms of the measures that need to be approved by Council on an annual basis to make sure that we have a sustainable water resource. So yes, we do. We have a water conservation and management plan that was completed 5-6 years ago.
Okay, so I mean, whether this gets approved or sent to staff anyway, I mean, I would probably want to read that prior to saying we're going to run off and create a demand management plan that contemplates residential meters. You definitely lose me when you start talking about residential meters in the Township of Langley, but an overall demand management plan, if we already have it, maybe it would be good to potentially, I'm not going to necessarily move it, but potentially defer this to the January meeting and give some of us, have that distributed to Council and read and see maybe if we're going to update that existing plan with new elements or review it or reconsider it in some form or expand on it, rather than what I sense this is a way to start talking about residential water meters, which I want to be very clear that don't support that and probably never will support that. So if the mover supports that, that's great, but I definitely don't. So but I think we still might want to look at some water conservation and demand management plans up to that point and certainly support that. So I would either defer this to January, subject to me having a chance to read that report, or making an amendment to remove everything after the words urbanized areas in the Township of Langley. Either one is acceptable.
Thanks. Another thing is just to add to that, we did have a priority setting session, and now we're adding the creation of another plan onto staff, and I don't remember us discussing this. I think we could also refer it to our priority setting session, the next one in the future, and see where this fits in our priorities. So that's something to consider. Councillor Long?
Well, all this discussion is a very deep subject.
Wet?
All these wells. No, I really, it's very interesting and very complex, and there are varying views, and there's varying solutions, and varying approaches one can take to this. So I think this really does qualify for a referral to CPC, because this is not. Remember, we talked about is it yes or no? Those are easy, or if it isn't, I think we need to have a greater discussion about it. That would have to be. So I'll make that motion to defer.
Or council, the priority setting session, the next
well,
one. Well,
CPC, it's what that's supposed to be, council priority.
No. I mean the one with Gord McIntosh. Maybe I'm using the wrong term.
Well, I'm going to move that it goes to CPC, and I'm not sure where that is, whether that's, I'm not saying it's going to go forever, but it isn't super time sensitive. It's very important. But we've already heard tonight there's a number of initiatives already underway. There's different philosophies in terms of water metering and so forth, and there's lots of rationale, tons of history that we can learn about this. So the presentation at the CPC will help us get that started, and that's my motion.
Okay, I'm just going to go through the list here. Councillor Whitmarsh hasn't spoken yet, and then I'll go to that.
Yeah, I think the idea of a water conservation management plan, I think, is good. If we already have one, I'd like to see it and read it. I think that would be helpful. This particular motion does talk about adds in water meters, which I'm a bit apprehensive about, but it also talks about water meters only in new residential developments, which means that then, for a long period of time, 90-95% or more of the community won't have meters, and some will, and it'll depend on where you live that you'll have a meter and some won't. So I think that's is far too complicated. I don't think I could support that at this point. So I'd either want to see it deferred or shorten the motion just to talk about a water conservation plan, which we already have, and we could just circulate that to council.
Thank you. Councillor Ferguson.
Yeah, thank you. I think Councillor Woodward asked one of my questions about what is on the books right now for conservation and what are we doing right now. There, if I may, and we've been down that road before regarding water meters, and one of the at Metro Vancouver a couple of months ago, the concept of Metro Vancouver, of course, talking about communities that don't have water meters, introduce them. And one of the other, it wasn't Langley, spoke up and says, you know, the capital costs would be huge and the impact on the community would even be larger. But I did want to question, has there, if I not through the chair to staff, in the past being a voluntary program for those people building larger units to put in their own meters just to monitor how much use are you? If it was a voluntary program, if I may, through the chair, I'm not sure if that still exists or whether anybody did it.
Your Worship, as far as residential uses are concerned, we have not had the requirement for installation of water meters even on a voluntary basis. What Councillor Ferguson may be referring to has been the roughing in, if you will, of the system, such that a meter can be placed at a future date without too much interruption or too much additional cost. So the box that accommodates the meter has been being installed for the past couple of decades in anticipation at some point in the future that meters will go in, but no water meters themselves being installed either as a requirement or on a volunteer basis.
And that would be the type of thing we could discuss, that what that looks like, but certainly introducing it on a full community basis. I'm not in favor of that. Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, Councillor Long, did you wish to?
I move that we defer this to a CPC session. A very interesting one it'll be, too.
Is there a seconder to that? Councillor Davis seconds it. So on referral to CPC, Councillor Davis.
I think we need to take a step forward here on water, on something in this motion. So I don't know, does anybody have any ideas about, or can we, like, I think if it goes to a CPP, it will go, we could lose it, could take a long time to get back. So I don't necessarily want to support that, but I do want to get, would like to get what's in place already and read it, and that could be part of the presentation to come back. So, are we able to massage the?
So I think
the motion to maybe just for now take out the implementation of water meters, or?
I'll ask staff. So if it goes to CPC, would staff just give us a presentation on what exists already, and then from that would give us the information that we need? Is that, Mr. Back, is that what, referring this, I think we just want to find out what we have already. We already have a lot done in this area, and this has been discussed before, and there is a lot of information that we have.
That's the intent of the mover. That's correct, Your Worship. Right now it says it's a referral to a future CPC session, which will be sometime out. So if it's the intention for a presentation, we should add that language if that's the intent of the mover.
Councillor Long? That would be sooner, you mean? Well, no, we have lots of work on our work plate. But CPC would have a presentation. That's right. But to present on what we have existing, I think would be a start. So that is the intention of the mover. Yeah. Okay, I'm going to call the question on the referral. And it carries, it fails. So it's Councillor Ferguson, Councillor Richter, Councillor Woodward, Councillor Arneson, Councillor Davis opposed. So now we're back to the main motion, M2. Well, I'm concerned that we just have a priority setting session, and now we're dumping something else on top of staff after we've set our priorities. And I don't, we already have, I can't support this. I think, we're just adding more work. We should be dealing with this properly. I'm going to call the question on M2. The motion fails. Councillor Whitmarsh, Councillor Kunst, Mayor Froese, Councillor Woodward, Councillor Long opposed. And so, Councillor Richter, I'll just hold on to yours for a second. No, just hold on for a second. I'm going to go to M3, and then I'm going to go to yours, okay?
No, you don't.
No, he's going to withdraw it, so.
So, yeah, just so we're clear, so M3.
Somebody get your mic on. Thanks.
M3 is being withdrawn.
Okay, thank you. Now, see, you didn't have to leave for that. Councillor Richter, you're on.
Yes, well, I would like to refer the matter of bottling groundwater to a CPC discussion.
Is there a seconder to that? Okay, Councillor Whitmarsh seconds, so I'm just going to open that up. Any discussion on that? Because I know we have had some discussion on that in the past, so that could just be part of it. Okay, seeing that, I'm going to call the question. I call it M4. M4. And everyone's in favor except for Mayor Froese. Carries. And Councillor Ferguson.
Oh, yes, thank you. Mr. Mayor, I got a couple of things if I may. The first thing, I was wondering if we certainly send our condolences to a colleague of ours from the Langley City, Councillor Jack Arnold, former colleague. 28 years in office, it's hard to believe. Whether we could send some flowers or a card of condolence to the family?
I think staff will do that if they haven't already. Thank you.
Okay, and my second point, Mr. Mayor, I've been doing a lot of reading since in my spare time, the last council meeting about new approaches, and I wasn't able to draft a notice of motion regarding something that I'd like to really look at, roll up our sleeves and look at major arterial roads for the 22 budget deliberations. And I don't have it drafted, but I wanted to bring it to council's attention. I'm not sure if other councillor members are concerned about it as well. How we finance and how we build and we put temporary uses, in other words, through arterial roads throughout the community. That's Aldergrove, Brookswood, Fernridge, and of course Willoughby, not limited to other major roads and arterial roads in the township of Langley. As we all know, there's an impact of the 216th and the freeway opening with a new overpass. And of course, as we know, there's the underpass at 201 and 202 freeway and roadworks all along the freeway along there. I think what the impact of that would be and how our community is adjusting. I think it's very, very important that we as a council at just 2020 budget roll up our sleeves and look at the way we finance and build roads and plan for the future. I think it's not something we do piecemeal, but we have to really think. At budget time, of course, it's a serious time, and I'm not saying this budget will be any different than any other budget, because all budgets are important, but I think it's something that I would like to, reconsidering and drafting a notice of motion to have things like major arterial roads put on our 2020 budget. Okay, and that's the first thing. And the second and the last thing, and I'd like to thank Shirley Swatsky. She wrote a nice letter to council, and she included all the councillors, and it brought my wife to tears, and I had a little chuckle myself. It's good that we have positive people in the community writing nice letters about how to include the whole council. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and a Merry Christmas as well to everyone.
Thank you. Councillor Long.
And a Christmas present for Ferguson. I'd like to make a motion that we open 24th Avenue as per the delegation.
All right, Councillor Woodward. No. No seconder.
None? You're making a motion to open 24th?
Yep. Are you?
I'll second that.
Okay, we're on to something here. Okay.
I'll second that for discussion, Councillor Long.
There we go. Councillor Long.
You know, everything we've heard about this 24th Avenue is concerns from folks that are going, potentially, I suppose, being thought to be going east of 200th Street. Whereas I think you heard clearly in the delegation, and in my mind, it's to service folks that are going west, going out of Langley. So it's going to really help with congestion to open that piece of road. Maybe there can be some calming signs or something put on the eastern entry to 24th to tell people to slow down. But you know what? If there's one thing I've learned in 20 years, if you fix up a road, and I think what council's trying to do now is, well, we're not going to open the road until it's all been black-topped and four-laned all the way through. The moment we improve that street, east of 200th Street, you're going to get tons of traffic. The way it is currently now, it's a small rural road. It won't attract that much traffic, and people won't be speeding as much because the road isn't designed for that. I think opening it to the west, all the way through is the right thing to do. That's why I make the motion. It's the right thing.
Excuse me, I just want to ask staff, I was quick to take the motion and the seconder, about, this has been discussed, is this a reconsideration? Is this, I don't recall, and perhaps it should be a notice of motion rather than yeah, excuse me, I'm asking staff, I don't need echoes. Just,
you're the chair.
Yeah, I know. I just want to get, because this may have, we may have already deliberated on it, I may have overstepped. So, Mr. Backen, is this a reconsideration, or should this be a notice of motion?
Your Worship, all very good points, but at the present time, whatever the answer to those points are, you have a motion on the floor that you have to dispose of. Yep. And as you've accepted it, I think it's deemed to be in order. So as a consequence, it's how you wish to dispose of it. And as such, it could be to pass, defeat, refer, or defer.
Yeah, I would entertain refer because it's already on the table, so that we can have more time on this one. It'd be like a notice. Yeah. Point of order for council.
Your bylaw that basically says when a delegation comes forward, the most we can do is refer it to staff for a report. Right. And we already have staff working on a report, so this should just be referred to staff. It's been referred to staff. It's out of order.
I'm asking for referral motion. Councillor Whitmarsh moves it. Referral seconder. Councillor Kunst, any discussion on referring this motion? Thank you. I'll call the question. This what are we at now? M5? Thanks. I did a... Well, you got to push a button. Hey, there you are. Yeah, it's too late. Now it's in.
This is the worst way to do this. And I think you got caught offside. I don't know if it was Mayor Froese. I think you, in tongue-in-cheek, are moving ahead here. Yeah. This is not good governance.
But it could have been.
No, but you were pissed
with
Councillor
him. Davis, Councillor Davis, you're
this is not the way we should be doing
Davis,
this.
You're challenging me, so I'm going to just explain.
No, I'm not challenging you. I'm just trying to get some.
I just need to explain. Councillor Long, let me explain. I took the mover and I took the seconder. Perhaps I should have waited. I agree. I didn't. So referral motion achieves the same thing. So that's what we're voting on, is to refer this so we can deal with it in a timely fashion. Sorry for the confusion.
Just getting ready to terminate this meeting.
I know you want to push that button and terminate. Okay, call the question. It's getting tense here at the last meeting of the year. Carries with Councillor Ferguson, Councillor Richter, Councillor Woodward opposed. Okay, so I've got to clear this queue. I'm going to have to start all over for other business. Councillor Woodward.
Yeah, I just want to maybe not get a chance. I'm not sure. I'm actually going to anticipate very significantly over Christmas the Ferguson plan to fix 208th Street, and where all that money is going to come from to deal with that. So I'm really, really looking forward to that. Notice of motion count. We're going to roll up our sleeves because that's not what we've been doing for a year already. But I want to wish everyone a Merry Christmas, including the staff and councillors and everything else in the first year. And Merry Christmas to everyone. Thanks.
Thank you very much. So, are we done? Thank you very much, everyone. Have a great Christmas. We had a little bit of fun here at the end. Motion to terminate. Second, Councillor Whitmarsh. All those in favor, opposed, carried. Have a great Christmas and a good New Year, and hope to see everybody back here in 2020 in January, where this will continue.